Great. So, welcome everybody. I'm Erik, founder of Flexiana, lifelong developer, and today I'll be speaking about why is it so difficult to get from being a software developer to be an IT manager in various roles, from team lead all the way to CTO or tech CEO. Um, First, just a quick thing about me. So I am a lifelong developer. I wrote first line of code in 1992 in Quick Basic. We were loading Quick Basic from audio cassettes, from audio tapes. Since that, I become a developer. Later on, I turned into team lead. Also, I have starting startups, my favorite sentence, which I repeat every time I have a chance. And besides that, I got a degree. I have studied computer science and then I switched to business and economics. So my master's is in business and economics. Besides other things, I was working as a CTO in various, mainly SaaS startups. I was architect of various ERP systems, mainly in private sector, but I have been involved in some public sector projects as well. Besides other things, I have started Flexiana about 8, 9 years ago, even when it has started actually me being a freelancer building apps, mostly in Clojure. And in an ancient and abandoned language called LiveScript, which was an extension of JavaScript, highly inspired by Haskell. So this all started the company. So Flexiana over time has grown. At our biggest, now we are a bit smaller, but at our biggest, we were over 100 people from 38 countries. So as you can see, I have been in development and in management for a while. All right. So even when I have studied that, and even when I have been in, let's say, both fields, in both legs, one in development and the second in management for such a long time, it was very hard move to get from being a developer into a management role. And this presentation today will be a little bit of a summary, what I have learned, things I would love to know if I got a chance to become a developer who is transitioning from development to management, and things that would accelerate my ability. All of those things I will mention today might be, let's say, inspired by my experiences, and every company, everybody's situation is a little bit different, but I am pretty sure that 90% of those things I will show you will be useful for you. And as a side note, I actually started being individual contributor again. So I have posted here my heat map from GitHub. Even when you are a developer, you don't have to stop. Sorry, a manager, you don't have to stop writing code, especially if it's joy for you, it's fun. Also, I believe doing software development is one of the best way how to train your brain. It improves your logic skills. It improves your capability to split problems to smaller ones, to name things, and so on. So maybe for some of you, the path might be that in your work, you will become a manager, but you will continue writing code, contributing to open source, and so on. But one of the things I have learned, and which I will be speaking about, is to be a manager. Sometimes it's a good thing to stop writing code in the work, even when you are perfectly capable to do so. All right, so now there is a list of reasons why it's hard, and one of that is it's convenient. For me, it's convenient, probably for most of you, to do development work, which means, yeah, writing code, testing, debugging, architecting software, and so on. And it pulls us to do this. for many people, included me, when we have started doing development, we didn't do it for money. It was for the pure love of building things. We just wanted to create things, and so we did. And if you want to transition, you still might love doing the software development, but it might not be a good thing for your team. It might not be a good thing for the company, for your career. So, so it's first thing. I will speak about all of those things more in during this presentation. The second might be a pull towards doing individual contributors work, which means not delegating. Very often you might have a feeling that you can do things faster than your team, better than your team. Sometimes you might be even right, but once you do this, it has a couple of disadvantages. First is you are not doing management role. The second thing is you are not growing capabilities of your team. Third, it's hard to be replaced. You can't go on a vacation without harming your team and so on. Then it's very common is missing managerial skills. Management, just like every other role, requires skills. Most of this presentation will be about missing skills, which skills you need. So it might be managerial skills, leadership skills, and organizational skills. If you would ask me what's the difference between a managerial skills, leadership skills, there will be overlaps, but in general, a manager is a job. Nobody is a manager in a free time, or you can't become a manager as an individual contributor. It's either or. While as a leader, leadership is seen or used as a definition during this presentation. Leadership is capability to make things happen and leading some initiative, which might be a team, but you might be a leader in something where you lead a bunch of AI bots, for example. Organizational skills are skills that are connected to pure bureaucracy of how organizations work, so collecting bills, scheduling meetings, and so on. These skills are needed as well. Then, and it's very common, people like there are fantastic people who are introverted who became managers, entrepreneurs, and succeeded. But overall, extroverts are significantly more attracted and also seen as leaders at various roles. And the last thing is sometimes people are not interested in the business. So once you transition from being individual contributor to roles that are higher and higher in the company hierarchy, the more you must be interested in the success of the business. And you should be interested, of course, in the quality of your code base and your outcomes, and if the team is doing work how it should be done. But again, when I started being involved in software development, we were basically playing. And there have been so many people who just wanted to build something just for the fun of building something. But once you start building software as a professional, somebody is paying for it. And people who pay for software development, they don't do it because they want developers to have fun. They do it because they want some outcome, some advantage, some new feature, automation, or to enable a new use case they don't have in their business. And for people who get higher in that company hierarchy, they must be interested in business, in making these things happen, even when it means that the work will be less fun. More about this later. And the transition requires not only learning new skills, but you also need to change some of your habits. Those habits are based on the things I mentioned on the previous slide. So yes, you learn new skills, you are removing the pools, to be, 1 second. Hi, Ayman. All right. So then you transition from individual contributor role to the managerial role. One of the things is changing habits. So there are those two pools. One of them is a pool to be a developer. The second is a pool to continue being let's say a developer. Both of those must be removed. Sometimes you might get back to development, as you have seen that GitHub a heat map here. So sometimes it's optimal to actually become individual contributor and to be close to the code. And I will speak about it on the next slide. So this is about removing those pools. Then there is creating those pro-business attitudes, becoming a leader and manager. Both of those things is so you can learn how to be a manager, but still you need to build a motivation to go. And the same goes for leadership. And then the next thing is you must become more pro-human, if you will. So it requires certain, let's say, growing and EQ, a growing capability to speak with others and understand them. I will speak about all this during today. So there will be or there will be two charts in this presentation. This is one of them. So let's imagine that there is an axis, and on one axis, so we have a company hierarchy. So you have people who start as individual contributors, and as they grow from developer to team lead, IT manager, potential architect, VP of engineering, CTO, they might become tech CEO. And on the second axis is what's the situation in the company and how technical is the product, problem domain. And for example, when you are a team lead and at a company that's building highly technical product, let's say NVIDIA, you might be highly technical and quite, let's say, not that much interested in end users experience, because the problem is so technical that these things are handled by somebody else, like product managers, etc. While when you will be team lead at, let's say, e-commerce company, you might be much closer to end users, to customers who purchase something in the e-store. So technically, when we speak about those pools, when you become a team lead at NVIDIA, you can be very close, or you can still be technical. So it doesn't matter if you have this pool to do tech work. You can still continue doing that even when you are team lead. While a team lead at a company like Amazon, Alza in Czech Republic, it's the biggest Central European e-commerce store. So at these companies, it will be much more useful if you will spend your time to learn how to be more pro-human, one of those skills I will be speaking about. And the more you will grow along, let's say, on this hierarchy, the more it is optimal to move and shift your workload away from tech towards understanding people and business domain. So this is quite important chart to remember. And now, if you remember when I have shown you that GitHub heat map for me as a contributor. So in Flexiana, I am here. I spent more time with accountants and lawyers than with developers. And trust me, I feel sorry for that every day. But besides Flexiana, we have a startup called GitReveal. It's a small team. We are basically 5 people working there, building business intelligence software for CTOs, IT managers, team leads, and so on. And we are At this moment, let's say 150 commits in, we are onboarding for first customers. It's super early. Like, you can't compare a company that's 8 years old and a business that's a couple of months old. And current iteration we work on is practically 2-3 weeks old. So at this situation, all this shrinks down here. So tech CEO, CTO, VP of engineering, whatever, how you don't even need role names. Everybody is here. The thing is, as the company grows, I realize that I will have to move to this direction away from technology, uh, especially because business intelligence field is way more concerned about the business domain and the impact of BI over the technology. There are best practices in BI that are already established. We are not doing primary research or things that does not exist. But what we do is we cause change in the customer's business. So it's in this axis, it's very heavy towards business impact. It's not heavy on tech impact. So I will have to move up here as that business will grow. So this is understanding you need to build, and also for your career decisions, if you want to grow into, let's say, team lead, IT manager roles, but you want to stay connected to technologies, do not grow here and do not pick businesses that are business heavy or people heavy. Pick either businesses that have, let's say, highly technical product, or grow to a role of, let's say, software architect, where you can still be connected with the business. So let's continue. So building skills, things you need to know. I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay. So now in one slide, I have put in about 3 years of study in the university. When you study management and economics, half of that is management and the other half is economics. And when you learn management, these are, let's say, more or less topics they speak with you about: people management, project management, product management. These are relevant, let's say, in tech. There will be one extra thing to speak about. So first part of people management skills is recruitment. When you build a company, first 5 hires will decide, I believe it, first 5 hires will decide more than anything if your business is going to succeed or fail. So it's extremely important. And even when we have established company and when we are building a new team, first people who get on the team either make the cooperation with our customer successful or make it fail, and most likely forever, and we will never get a second chance. So recruitment, uh, no matter if you like it or not, is extremely important. The second thing is onboarding. It's even when you, so imagine you decide to hire a certain person and you have multiple scenarios. This person is a good fit and might succeed in your company, or this person is not a good fit and is not made to work with your company. If the person is a good fit, you should make him productive as fast as possible. How? And if the person is not a good fit, you should terminate the cooperation with the person as fast as possible. How? So both of those things are stochastic. It's full of maybes and you don't know. And many people look great when you are hiring them. And then when you onboard them, they might succeed, they might not. There are a couple of best practices. What I would say, for example, for a while in Flexiana, we have been practicing something like a buddy system. So you get another developer who is your buddy in a way, and this person is practically helping you with everything, learn how to do things in the company. Nowadays, this role is now done by HR. The second thing is training materials. You need plenty of training materials. If you are building a team for a new product, for example, you might need to build those materials. Even as a manager, it might be your responsibility to create documents that will help people to onboard successfully. Then the second thing is finding good developers is tricky. Now we live in a very weird times. Actually, I would say it's first time in my life when there is plenty of very talented developers who are looking for the jobs. It has never been a case. There was always shortage of good developers, but basically, so it is possible to hire great developers these days. And but when you hire somebody who is not that great, there must be a way how to recognize it. You need to see the outcomes. You need to speak with people, what they work on, what they are going to work with, like what are their next tasks, what are the outcomes, how they understand the system, how they understand what is expected from them. So initially, somebody must pour plenty of time into people. One of those things, if you are a manager, you need to spend time with your team. And in different teams, different roles, it might be very different. You might have team that's more independent, or you might have a team where you must be extremely head-on, and it's hard to create a heuristic. I have seen companies where even like IT manager had two teams, and one team required extremely hands-on approach, and the other one did not. Next thing is law. Basically, recruiting people and working with people is highly regulated in all countries of the world. So no matter where you are from, if you will work with people, you should study the work law, and you should know what is legal, what is not legal, and how to behave with people, and etc. Then the second thing is people management or people development. Sorry, people development. So once you get people to the team, you got somebody with a potential, and initially, most likely, this person does not have outputs. Uh, he or she might, like from the start, become super productive, but initially, you must create this output, and then you must sustain this output over time, and your situation will change. Every single company in the world changes all the time. There is no single company in the world that might, let's say, that now we are done, we will work like this for centuries, we will not ever change anything. So you need to make sure that your people are learning new technologies, are learning new best practices, are constantly getting better. And I have seen company, I don't want to name a company. So I have even seen a company where one developer it was a small company, small agency, just let's say 6 developers, and one owner, and one office manager. That was it. And the one of the developers, he was basically something like a CTO slash the only person who was leading other developers. So he was developing like crazy. He was caring about everything. He was helping with everything and so on. But it was a little bit like you have an elephant in the room. He gets larger and larger, and no other animal in that room can grow to become elephant as well, because he was so active and so much trying to resolve every single problem that he became super productive, but he never got and never gave chance to anyone else to become like him. And then he left. And when this has happened, suddenly They found that all people in that company were underskilled, even when they have been with the company for years. So they should be technically capable to do any type of project they were doing in that business. So one part of people development is expecting everybody to constantly get better. So you will not end up with a couple of super talented people and then some people who never grow and who just do their job. Next thing is performance management. And performance management is, especially, for example, for me, wasn't wasn't a simple thing. Managing performance creates conflict between who you want, let's say people, how you want people to perform and how they perform. Um, just recently, I have read an article, and in SP 500 companies, about 65%, so two-thirds of people underperform what managers would expect. So for a long time, there was, let's say, an expectation that you have, let's say, a Gaussian curve or a normal distribution where you have a bunch of super performers, you have a bunch of slackers, and then there is everybody else. I have seen theories where it is being said that basically 20% of people contribute and 80% of the value. Um, I think none of that is true. It's more gradual. But I would say in every company, about one-third of people or 20% of people highly surpass expectations. About 20% of people are around of what we would expect. And then let's say around half of the people should improve their performance. And who is responsible to improve performance of people? Managers. So building this performance is one of those things that are not, it requires sometimes conflict. It takes too long. You need to work faster. It does not, like, we shouldn't do this complex solution. Let's find some existing solution. Excel is enough. All of those things are difficult sometimes, but this is one of the skills that every single manager must get. The next thing is every manager, just like every developer, is a problem solver, and you have ongoing stream of problems. So you might have intrapersonal conflicts. You need to resolve them. You might have um, people who don't want to abandon some bad habits in work. You need to work about that. You might have people who don't know how to communicate effectively with the customers. So, but they are crucial. You need them in the team. So you might be a little bit like creating an umbrella where you are a shield between the customer and the person. There are culture maps that describe, let's say, communication styles of people in various countries. The more Eastern Europe you will go, the more open people will be, but they might sound rude to people who are more to the West. So when somebody in, let's say, in the USA, in the UK communicates with somebody who is, let's say, in Ukrainian might sound rude, even when he does not mean anything bad. It's just the communication style. So as a manager, sometimes you must create an environment where the customer either understands it or the worker changes his behavior and basically plays a role, because we must learn about the culture of the country. Then there are project management skills. Let's be honest, only 20 to 30% of projects in software development are delivered in time and on budget, based on some researches. About 20% of projects are delivered ever. Like, sorry, 80% are delivered, 20% are never delivered. About 20 to 30% of projects are either not used by users or are used significantly less than it was expected. Software development is R&D, research and development. It's not manufacturing. We are working in an environment of uncertainty. Plans constantly change. We have expectations about users that might not be true. So all this creates an environment where basically planning is extremely difficult. I might be speaking about agile and so on. All of those things are important. You need to learn how to plan. You need to learn how to reduce the scope. You need to learn. You need to learn how to deliver. Many people, many developers, even talented developers, could sometimes, and I have been a witness of that, could develop for months and months, be 90% done, and never deliver, because first we need this abstraction, first we need that. So manager's role sometimes is making sure that you deliver. So you need to plan something smaller, you deliver it, and then you iterate. Then a second thing is building org charts, team topologies. Usually it does not matter when you are a team lead because all this is decided by somebody else. But as you grow, you might be a person who is designing organization. By the way, there is a book, Enterprise Integration Patterns, which is focused on data integrations. And all of those patterns and all of those things you will find in this book work for organizational design as well. So technically, um, I would say organizational design because it's all about communication, so data flows. Organizational design is not a hierarchy of, let's say, modules where you are decompose problems to smaller ones. I would say organizational design is way more like data integration. You design flows. Who must know about what? Who must decide or transform the task for others? So again, there are books that speak about all this. Then prioritization. It's another topic and a source of problems sometimes in companies. Obviously, when every single department sees themselves as the most important one, uh, they have a reason. So without sales, they would say, you would have no deals. So we are the most important ones, right? Then you might look at accountants. So if we will stop doing accounting, you will go to jail. So accounting will believe they are the most important ones. In development, uh, many developers might believe they are the most important ones because without developers, you have no product, you have nothing to sell. So all of those roles might see themselves as the most important ones. And when you prioritize different teams, different, let's say, roles in the company, you need to learn how to prioritize. In this, one of the best practices I have deployed before I have started Flexiana. Besides being a developer, I was doing change management, and I was doing change management initiatives in various companies. And one of those things I have implemented in a couple of companies successfully, so I consider this a best practice, is grand central backlog of those like big initiatives. So every time somebody will want something big to be developed, they should come to somebody. Usually it was a board, CXOs in the company. So bring that initiative and it will fall into a common backlog. Instead of every team having their own backlog and anybody can insert any task, I believe, even if I speak about organizations that were size of bank and spending tens of millions of dollars per year for development, and they had millions of customers, still they were able to go through this grand central backlog of big priorities, and then they sent it to their business analysts who split it down, and it worked well. So one of the best practices I recommend is having one list of priorities for the whole company. Then there is avoiding middle manager trap. So imagine a company where you have only individual contributors and CEO. CEO works directly with individual contributors, directly delivers something to the customer. It might be custom development, it might be SaaS product, it might be internal system, whatever. So the contributors have direct experience of what is happening with the users, how they use it, and so on. The CEO has direct experience of how customers pay for it and if they are happy, if they complain, and so on. Then the company grows and you hire middle managers. First layer of middle managers. Middle managers are not individual contributors and they are not CEOs. If this small company, they still might get some financial data, but some of them will be working with, let's say, cost centers, so they are not working with the customers. And as they are not building the system itself, it gets more complex, more difficult for them to understand what's happening in the business. Let me go back to organizational chart here. Then the company grows again. So we have now two layers. So we have, let's say, IT managers and team leads, and IT managers work directly with the tech CEO. So IT managers no longer work with individual contributors. They don't see them. And team leads don't speak directly with CEOs. So between team leads and IT managers becomes a communication layer where all people no longer see the whole business, how the whole business is doing. You add another layer. So you have team leads, IT managers, and let's say CTO or VP of engineering. And these roles here are even more, let's say, distinct or even far both from people who directly develop something for customers and from people who directly see the outcomes of the business. And the company might not be willing to share all the financial detail, all the data about product usage, all the details about sales pipeline, and so on. So all those things that are visible here or here, but stop being visible here. So for somebody who is a middle manager, let's say, there is this threat that basically your actions might be based on inaccurate data, and it's very difficult. Most companies, and as a best practice, is having as flat structure as possible, not having many layers of hierarchy. Even then, of course, you have fewer chances to have to be raised to get to a better position, right, at the company. The second thing is to be quite open about the situation of the business. So let's say those information that are available for CEO, CTO, CFO, and so on, being kinda open about how things are done. Ideally, teams should see each other's backlog. Teams should be able to look into every other people code bases. There should be some, let's say, access to see how customers are using your product and so on. And those middle managers should not they shouldn't definitely end up being just a translator between layers. The only thing they do, some people might think it's the role of the job is translating the bill of CEO and CTO to team leads and saying to CEO and CTO how team leads are succeeding and being just men in the middle. When you do this, you fell into trouble, and that's something that shouldn't happen. So getting out of middle management trap is really building understanding outside, like at the borders of the business, finding things that matter. So this is let's say important thing to keep in mind. The last one, if we still speak about managerial skills, is our product management skills. So we speak about topics related to agile, for example, splitting larger tasks to smaller ones, user story mapping, building user personas, prioritization. For prioritization, I like to use Kano model. Okay, Kano model. So Kano model is a product management prioritization framework where you basically ask each persona, if the feature is not implemented, what does it mean for you? And if it is implemented, what does it mean? So if the user, and you ask each persona, because for each persona of your product, it will be different. You ask, if it's not there, I'm not going to use it. Like for a car, it's wheels. If the car does not have any wheels, you don't use it. But if it's implemented, I don't care. I expect it. So it's basic. It's something without it you can't even try. Then there might be performance needs, which is if it's not implemented, I don't like it. If it is implemented, it helps me. I like it. So adaptive cruise control. So you can live without adaptive cruise control, but when it's there, it's good. Then there is features that are good, but users can live without them. So let's say wireless charging of phones in cars. Like for some people, it might be already performance need, but for many people, they don't care. They can just plug the phone to the cable, and it's not a big problem for them. So it's a delighter. So you need to learn someday how to prioritize, how to understand users' needs, and so this is another skill. Based to that, also you need to negotiate with stakeholders, because very often, especially when you work in a larger company, some people might become married with an idea that our system definitely needs this, and it might be true, it might not. If you will find out, for example, by mapping needs of your users, that this stakeholder came up with idea that which is, let's say, a delighter, but you still haven't implemented um, all of those, let's say, performance needs, which are more important ones. Let's say every time you build a product, first you need to implement basic needs, then performance needs, and then you might start adding delighters. You might not, because sometimes, and sometimes is very often, you might want to keep your product simple. You might decide not to implement delighters. So when somebody comes with a delighter, while you still haven't implemented all performance needs or even basic needs, you need to negotiate and try to convince the person, even when it's your superior, for example, in the company, that this should not be done, or it should not be done now. So once you, let's say, have all of those skills, and each of these skills takes a long time to learn, especially people management skills. These are, like, for example, for project management skills, product management skills. When you do it, I believe in weeks, you can be decent. With people management skills, if you are not super talented straight away, people management skills can easily take years to master. So, so these are managerial skills. Now let's jump to leadership skills. As I said, there are overlaps. The only thing is you can be a leader even when you are not a manager. So first thing is problem solving. You have to, like, to be efficient leader. There are some, let's say ways how to solve problems, and also connected to that, do decisions. So big problem is what to do, how to do it, what do first, and so on. So first is saying no, constantly trying to make things simpler. Sometimes telling your colleagues, do not implement this script. Right now we have We have my colleague on the call, Fabrizio, who unfortunately had to create 200 lines long Excel sheet because I told no to building an app that would map the data, and he had to do it manually. But it's simpler sometimes, and it's faster usually. The second thing, performance management. So building expectations of how long things should take and maintaining this expectation on ongoing basis. Then IC scoring. So IC scoring is a technique I have learned in Alza, the biggest Czech e-commerce store. So they use it for prioritization and for decisions whether to do something or not. ICE is impact, certainty, effort. Impact is how much money it will bring. If we speak about commercial application development, if you were in non-profit field, it might be how many lives were saved, for example, or how did you serve your community. But impact, let's say in business, will be money you earn. Certainty is how sure you are that you will get that advantage, that you will achieve that impact. And one of the things I have learned is that, especially, let's say, in marketing and sales, these certainties are much lower than you would like. So, for example, when you have an application and you know that you pay too much for cloud, for example, and if you bought your own server, high performance hardware, and you might potentially cut your hosting bill, including having an ops person, you might cut your bill by 80%. You might be like 90% sure. While when you do a marketing campaign, for example, you are never sure if it will work well or not. And you have to do lots of bets, lots of small bets, which is the last one, effort. Effort is how much it will cost you. So if you are not 100% sure that the impact will be absolutely massive on things that have low level of certainty, you should not commit a lot of money. You should not commit for projects that will take you months to get to the goal. So based on that, also it's a good to do, for example, prototyping to show customers wireframes first before you will start building anything, and so on. So IC scoring is a good technique to know. Then overall understanding risks. So there are multiple types of risks, but basically what you could say, so you risk either big risks that happen not very often, catastrophic risks basically, or you might have like small risks that happen all the time. Catastrophic risk might be that three biggest customers will leave the company in 1 month, and the company will lose, for example, half of the revenues. And this happens not that often. And then you have risk that, I don't know, talented developer you like and you want to keep him in your team will leave. These things happen all the time, especially if the company is big enough. This will just keep on happening and you need to carry on. And for each, you need to find mechanisms how to face it. So for catastrophic risks, it's usually good to have some kind of insurance. You can't insure against not having customers, but you can insure the company against other catastrophic risks. You must have a plan how to cut expenses when needed. This is, again, something individual contributors never have to do, and managers have to do it every time, and leaders. It's not pleasant, but you need a plan, you need to know what to do, and then you need the capability to do it. And if you are in managerial role, you will end up doing it. From time to time, every company is a subject of crisis. You will have to cut expenses. From time to time, catastrophic events will happen. Very often, small events will happen. You will have to face them all the time. Next thing is understanding capacity. So as a manager, you will most likely work on 100% of your capacity, and your team is likely to work on 100% of capacity. If we speak about development, in ops, it's different. In ops, you are very often with server administrators, you are not paying them to constantly change something on the server. You are paying them to be available. So basically, managing them is organizing them so those guys will not go to drink beers to the pub on Friday afternoon, because it's a responsibility that week to make sure that the servers are running, because customers, let's say in the USA, when our ops are both in Europe. So, so when the customers are using systems in the USA, it's -6, -8 hours, depending on the West Coast, East Coast. The app must be running, so they can't be drinking in the pub. So you need to organize those things. So building, let's say, understanding those capacities, planning people, it's important thing. Then for decision making, weighted matrix, it's complete 101 for decision making. So basically, when you have 5 choices, you have 5 criteria, you will basically say, this criteria matters way more than others. The weight is 10. The second criteria matters a lot. The weight is 5, and the others matter just a little bit. So the weight is just 1. And you score every attribute in every option. You multiply, and you will have the best decision. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, because sometimes you get to the situations where you need, let's say, more complex. You need one more layer of decision making. And for this, I have been using a couple of times an algorithm called Paprika, potential or pairwise ranking, say, yeah, of all possible alternatives. So basically, in this decision-making approach, you are comparing, let's say, always 2 criteria against 2 criteria. So we would say, is it better for you to have more senior developer in your team who is on a different continent, or is it better to have more junior developer who is on the same continent and the same time zone? And for each company and for each person, the decisions might be a little bit different. So this algorithm was created by a scientist, I believe, from New Zealand, Paul Hansen. I know Paul. We had a bunch of calls. So he built also a tool. You don't need the tool. There is even a library on GitHub in JavaScript, so you can use a library, but the tool is not expensive, and you can do decision making in a tool. So you will create those options. So let's say I will have here, let's say, for example, decision making for team assignment. What person should I assign to what team? So I have certain criteria: professional experience, if it's the same continent, person interested in the team interested in that person, and so on. And then I always got the chance, like, let's say, is English, let's say, somebody who has better English and but worse professional experience better than, for example, somebody with worse professional experience and better English. And you answer those questions, and you end up with a summary that will tell you how important are different aspects. So, for example, professional experience is the most important. Then, actually, same continent. So we found that I was speaking about that on one of those previous webinars. Even when we are a full remote company, I don't believe in full async communication. Having some level of sync communication is extremely useful and is a good thing. So same continent, or even like people who are, for example, in Europe, willing to work with in the American time zones. We have some owls in the company, and it helps a lot to make the cooperation successful. Then, for example, personal interest and team interest in the person are, let's say, so these are some findings we had for this decision making process. So this might be a skill that might be useful for you. This paprika algorithm is universal. You can use it when you are deciding where to go on vacation or what type of house or apartment to buy. Okay, then next thing is best practices are context based. So when you are building a startup, for example, you might not care that much about clean code, especially if it's something B2C lifestyle. You need to get something out very fast. While, for example, when you work in fintech, health tech, um, your product errors might let's seriously harm other companies, other people. So because of that, it might be, let's say, best practice might be to write extremely well tested code, do plenty of mob programming or pair programming. Next thing, temporary solutions might be rational. So if you know that things will change a lot, that the database structure will change a lot, data model will change a lot, do not put things to stone. Use dynamic language, use sometimes JSON field in the database. Do not insist on third normal form in the database structure. And once things will stabilize, they always do. When you build an application, they always do. You should, let's say, go to the direction where, okay, now it can be clean. So when you are working with your team, when you do those decisions might be based on understanding of where you are in that project. And of course, done is much better than perfect. And now, the most important part of leadership is adding energy. Um, I believe that every single organization that exists is a subject of is a second thermodynamical law. Basically, each system is going, it's, let's say, changing towards entropy. The entropy always increases in the system unless you are adding energy. A running company or non-profit, any organization, if it's supposed to be successful long term, there must be people who constantly maintain it running. You just need to put in energy, and the more energy you have, the more successful you will be. I don't believe there is such a thing as low energy leader. It's a nonsense. You must have plenty of energy, and you must put in that energy into maintaining organization, constantly controlling things, finding errors, and addressing problems. One of those things, of course, when you do business, is that there is some level of luck and some level of market situation. But in general, I would say if you have two companies and one company has more energetic and more problem solving focused leaders, this company will grow faster. And usually every company grow to the point where uh, the size of the company, like the larger the company, the larger the problems. Initially, no, you don't matter. Nobody wants your products, nobody knows you, and so on. As you grow, when you are, let's say, Google, you get to the size of governments, and suddenly you speak with ministers and prime ministers, and they write new laws just because of you. You're facing completely different sets of problems that are very complex, very difficult. So I really believe that companies grow to the size of problem solving skills and energy of its leaders. And if you improve in this thing, better problem solving and better adding energy, you will immediately become better leader. Okay, and one more organizational skill. It's here for, let's say, to make to provide complete set of skills you need to learn. This is the easiest one yet. For some reason, I meet developers who never send a calendar invite in their life, who dislike using Excel even when it might be the best choice, who might not be able to write meeting notes, or when there is a business trip, people might forget to ask for invoice, collect bills, expenses, and so on. So when you move from developer role into IT manager role, all of those skills should be absolutely automatic. You should be able to work with calendar. You should live in your calendar practically. It's the more you will go up the hierarchy, the less you will be working with task lists, and the more you will work with your calendar. And the fuller will be your calendar. Even when you will block blocks of your time for, let's say, tasks that take you hours and you need to focus, the higher you will be in the hierarchy, the more the calendar will be. Now, nowadays, from my task list, I pull maybe 5 to 10 tasks per week, and the rest is all calendar. And my day is split to 30 minutes blocks. And we are a small business. There are companies where top managers are their calendars are in 10 minutes, 15 minutes blocks. So um, all those things, they are not complex. It's not difficult to learn this, but you need to learn this to be a manager. Okay, let's continue. So changing habits and behaviors you must develop. So as I said, one of those things is you need to stop working as individual contributor, which is difficult because this is what you have probably done for years. And you need to a little bit abandon this and work with your team, maybe coach them a little bit. When you see underperformance, call out underperformance, maybe show, because you have those skills, how to do it right, but you shouldn't do it every day. Again, if I went back on slide 6, when you are small starting company, those CEOs, CTOs are doing everything. But as the company grows, you need to get rid of pull to do individual contributor work and pull to do tech work. So you need to stop doing those things. Delegate, control, solve problems, give advice. Next thing, becoming a leader. So there have been some researches that has shown that leaders usually have low agreeableness, which means they have no or they don't have strong need for others to agree with them and agree with others. I did some personal questionnaire. I ended up, for example, to be 2% worst or the lowest agreeableness of population, even when for many people I might not look like this. And you should build this skill in yourself, but at the same time, it should not mean that you are growing ego. Ego is a bad thing. And of course, you should be building meritocracy. So the best solution should always win, but you should not try to please people. You should try to be principled instead. Then becoming energetic, it's just like generic practices: sleep well if you can, care about your health, exercise, limit alcohol, limit other let's say activities that take your energy too much. So these things, it's a lifestyle change that will change your life in other fields, but overall you should not come to work tired. You should come to work full of energy so you can give your best every day. Next skill or habit to build is becoming more pro-human. So growing, EQ, um, ability to understand needs of others. Of course, in business, the most important ones are your customers. So you should understand your customers, but it's not only customers. When you become manager, suddenly you don't speak that much with developers. Even when you are IT manager, suddenly you speak with people from finance, marketing, product, uh, or let's say the top management, and suddenly you are leading discussions with people who never wrote a line of code in their lives, but who know, for example, marketing much better than you will ever do. And for those people, you need to be able to communicate well with them, to understand what they need, and to help them, and expect and explain what you need from them so they can help you. Next thing is also understanding how people fit to teams. Even when I was individual contributor, I ended up in a company, in a startup, where I wasn't the best fit. I was capable developer, but I wasn't a good fit. And in the end, I left. But back then, when I am thinking about that, the manager should have removed me. But because I was so successful in another project where we worked on together, he didn't, because he knew that I have capabilities, but he didn't have any other project. He had nowhere to move me. So he should have terminated me in that company. And he had a chance. He was a decision maker. Um, so, as a manager, you need to understand how people fit to teams. If somebody does not fit to any team, this person should not be at the company. So, this is a thing, understanding those things, building new teams, picking people for teams, trying to understand how well will people play together. I was working in the company where we had talented developer who, it's a story, but basically it's an interesting story. But in this team, there couldn't be any woman because he always fell in love with every single woman, no matter if she was how beautiful she was or she wasn't. He always fell in love with every single woman who ended up in that team. So in the end, in that company, they couldn't have, and he was the developer who was with the company the longest, and he was on all projects, and the company couldn't fire him. He was a really good developer. He never tried anything inappropriate. He just was constantly falling in love, and he couldn't help himself. And so in the end, the best practice was to build a team with just men, which wasn't difficult. In that company, there was usually only one, for example, woman developer. So she was in a different team, and everything was working well. It's a story, but over years you will have plenty of those stories with different people getting into different situations. Next thing is becoming decisive. So uh, it's it's difficult sometimes to decide if you are doing crisis management or if you are doing micromanagement. It might be, let's say, the same activity might be crisis management or it might be micromanagement. With micromanagement, why it's bad? It's bad because you act as if your team is not competent and you do decisions for them, the decisions they should be doing. In crisis management, you do decisions for your team because you are competent and they are not competent. So it's the same thing, but in crisis management, you do it because it's true. In micromanagement, you do it because you believe they are incompetent, even when they are. So basically, you do decisions for others who don't need your decisions, and you are not improving things. So becoming decisive means doing good things, solving problems when the teams goes off track, which might happen even in teams that go successfully for years, especially if the situation changes a lot, um, or or if, for example, the team is more focused on, let's say, a long-term delivery, and suddenly you need something really fast, you need to change things a lot, and developers might not be there mentally. And you, as an IT manager, you might need to do that push and to deliver the change against the back pressure. But it's a good thing because you go do it, and over time, when you get there, you might stop doing crisis management because the team will grasp it. They will over time become better in decision making than you because they will understand the situation and they will live in that new system. Of course, you still need to carry on adding energy. When you stop adding energy, everything will break. This is a constant thing, and for every single IT manager, if you will manage, you have to add energy. There is no way around it. Maybe AIs will be able to replace this, but AI is so simple to ignore, isn't it? So, next thing is temporary solutions might be rational. I believe I was speaking about that. One more thing, when I was speaking about extraversion, so it is very common that people in management are extroverted. If you are introverted, um, find out if you can somehow work on yourself to be more open, to be more talkative, to be willing to be in touch with a lot of people outside of your team, speaking with customers from completely different cultures, countries. If yes, it might work for you. If not, it might not be easy. And um, do not become a manager if you think it will be just fun. It will not. You will be solving problems all the time. Next thing is, I really believe there is a book called Ego is Your Enemy. It's a good book, but the name of the book is even better. You should constantly try to not have ego or have as little ego as possible. Your decisions, even when your decisions should be based on best practices, problem solving skills, doing the best thing, meritocracy, not on if you got hurt because somebody told something you don't like, let's say. Next thing is in management, there will be constantly things that will be changing all the time. If you are low energy, you need to work on your energy. Without it, there is no point. At the same time, when you will have more energy, everything in your life will get better. So you are not doing it only for IT management role. You are doing it for yourself, and you need to cultivate this low agreeableness. You should be principles based and so on. But at the same time, I would say, for example, in sales, it's good to have higher agreeableness. I see that good salespeople, I have met some absolute excellent salespeople, and what they want is genuinely build relationship with customers. They really want to help them. They listen to their needs. They almost never question customers, even when those needs might be suboptimal. And if another way is but you need to have high likability and high EQ to be successful in sales. So it's not automatic, but if you don't want to be developer, there is another option to go from IT is to go to sales. At the same time, and this is, let's say, the last slide, there will be just thank you slide. I don't want to end this as a negative thing. When you do this work, you are doing very, very interesting tasks every single day, and you might grow. I will get back to this slide. So as you grow, you might continue being more technical, and it's perfectly okay. You might work more on the, let's say, business domain and working with people and understanding people. And if it's something you like, you will learn so much, and it pays off. And at the same time, when you grow in that hierarchy, often you have a chance to do larger decisions, change the world, shape successful, important products, and create value for thousands or millions of people, and do big decisions that shape a lot. And so it is worth it. When you will want to go this path, you should know, of course, what's the payoff. All right. So thank you. And now it's the time for questions. Besides that, if you will have any questions, suggestions, if you will need me to recommend you any books, feel free to send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer. Okay. So thank you. Do we have any questions? Yes, Fabrizio.
Sorry, I wanted to give you the congrats here. I missed the button. Sorry, very sorry.
Okay. Okay. No questions? Yes. Okay, Saurabh.
Yeah, so I have a question. So, how would you handle, let's say, politics which comes in the management track?
Uh, how would I handle what in the management track?
Like the politics, like there are so many managers, right? So, how would you handle politics and the pulls and pushes?
How would I handle? I'm sorry, I have hard time understanding the question because the connection is not so good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If there is too many managers, how would I resolve conflicts between managers?
The politics between the people.
Uh,
Okay. Let me send you a chat.
okay, please use chat. Politics. Uh, Politics between managers. So a good thing is that in small companies there is no politics. When you get into larger company, unfortunately, politics happen. You must become a politician. It's if the company does not want to have a lot of politics, it must come from the top management, and they must grow technical. So, and they must grow the culture of openness and meritocracy. If you are working in the company that is not, let's say, building this culture of openness, meritocracy, and that engages in politics, you need to learn politics. So you need to understand what are motivations of other people, what they want. You need to give them what they want. I'm sorry to explain like this, but let's be absolutely honest. If you end up in a company that engages in politics, there is probably no way around, and you need to engage in politics as well. So you need to understand what people want. You need to give it to them in order to get what you want from them. And if you don't like politics, and if you will grow in that hierarchy, you can change the culture. It takes time, but it's possible. I have seen that. So you can later change the company and be more open and stop doing politics in that business. So at least temporarily, if you are in such a situation, read Machiavelli and best luck. Best luck. Okay. Yeah, no worries. Okay. Do you have any other questions? If not, then I would like to thank you. Definitely, let's stay in touch. And next month we will have Christmas. So in January, we will be organizing another webinar. I'll be more than happy if you will come again to speak about topics related to building applications, building teams, and so on. Okay, I'm stopping recording.